the troublemaker, girl.
Welcome to Smart Life. I am Dr. Gina, and it's good to be with you on this beautiful day. Now, hot air, you know, has been rushing out of Congress for years, but what if we could tax that? D.C. officials may not have discovered that, and we hope they do soon, but they are finding new ways to tax the wind, believe it or not, all around the country. Joining us now is Judson Phillips of Tea Party Nation. Judson, welcome back to Smart Life. How are you?
Gina, hey, I'm good. I'm in Texas today. How are you?
Oh, Texas, where they still know the definition of freedom and liberty in some ways. That's so cool. And they're taking all the business from California. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're talking about literally taxing the air. And I think if we could tax the air on the floor of the House of Representatives and the Senate, we might really have something going on there. But that's not exactly where this is going, is it?
No, although if we could tax that higher, we might have an unending energy source.
Yes, for sure.
But no, what you're leading into is something that I'm working on. It's a project called Waste in the Wind, and this is something your listeners need to know about. Congress is currently considering the tax legislation that they're going to pass this year, and there's something that's being considered called the Wind Power Production Tax Credit, or sometimes it's called PTC for short. And what this is, it is a subsidy. It is millions of our tax dollars given to rich liberal billionaires who go out and build wind farms to generate wind power. These are people you've probably never heard of, people like Warren Buffett, for example. He's a big beneficiary of this. Mm-hmm. And he was on CNN about a month ago, and he said, you know, the only reason I build these wind farms is because of the government subsidies. Without the government subsidies, they wouldn't make sense. And my response to that is, well, if they don't make sense without the subsidies, why do they make sense with the subsidies?
And there you have it. One of the families I have heard of who is a big recipient of these tax credits, if you will, is the Carnahan family from Missouri, a dynasty on the Democrat side. And they have wind farms and have made a lot of money off of those subsidies. So you're exactly right. But I heard Ralph Nader yesterday. I'm trying to think of what show it was. And I want to say it was Levin, but I'm not completely sure. I heard him yesterday talking about how the new windmills are going to be much more efficient, much less eyesores, and they're not going to kill as many birds because, of course, the killing of all the endangered species by these windmills, by the environmentalists who promote them, has been sort of a comedic point, I guess, for some of us who watch the antics on the left and just kind of scratch our heads. So these new windmills are supposed to be better, but what say you?
No, they won't, and here's why. They're being subsidized by the government, and if they're being subsidized, there's no incentive to be efficient. You know, one of the other alternative energy sources is solar power, and over the last 10 to 15 years, solar power has become competitive in the free market in some areas because they've not gotten those kind of subsidies, so therefore you have the choice, either get competitive or go out of business. Well, when you're getting subsidized by the government, you don't have to worry about going out of business because the government's going to be there to bail you out. And you know, this is just another bailout that we don't need. If this wind power tax credit is passed, it's going to cost, and by the way, Obama not only wants it passed, he wants it made permanent so we never debate it again. But this would cost $19.3 billion. And that's the government estimate. And we know two things about government estimates. They're always wrong and they're always low. But let me put this in perspective because that's a number that most people can't wrap their heads around.
Yeah.
So what does it mean? The Navy's newest aircraft carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, which is going to be commissioned later this year, cost $12 billion. For the cost of this tax credit, this welfare for liberals, we could buy the Navy another brand new Gerald Ford type aircraft carrier, put all the aircraft that we need on board, and still have some money left over.
And that's the other thing about that. Most of this, as you pointed out, is going to some of the wealthiest statists known in the country. Judson, thank you so much for telling us all about that. We'll put your website up so that people can find what you're doing on this. And we thank you for your work, Judson.